Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Hemshech of the Maimer Basi Legani Tavshin Yud Aleph. The Rebbe's first foundational Maimer, or up to his base, as you can see there in front of you. Okay, so the Rebbe established the Ikir of the first Perek was to explain the diak of the Medrash that the Ikir Shechina was present here Lamata at the outset of creation, and then Basi Legani Achisikala is referring to Bechlal Matan Torah, but specifically the Mishkan when the Shechina returns. So what the Rebbe explained was the meaning of the Iker Shechina, because there are many levels to Shechina. What's common to all of them is where Likus is invested, mislabish, to some degree or another in a receiver. And the Rebbe traced back that Tchuna, in other words, that Kavana, really, it's the divine intent ultimately that Hashem wants a Dire. Shechina means Dire. Shechina is the indwelling of the divine presence, which is the whole purpose that God desires. Of course, a dwelling place here in this world, as revealed in Chassidus, and as this Maimon will explain. So the Ika Shechina is the deepest place, in the Ein Sof Lifnei Tzimtzum, where already this truth, this desire is manifest, and that is, as he identified yesterday, the level of the Ein Sof, where, in the words of the Maimed, is Pashta Sa'ir, that is Shaykh to Elamus, which in simple language means that already there, the highest levels of Bligvul, transcendence, of the infinite divine beyond the Tzimtzum, already there is articulated in a subtle way the desire for to be part of our lives. Shamash Yisrael, Hi Lamata, Inu Lamazeh Guf Gashmi. Now, it just should be said that, you see, we're looking now at the whole kavanah of the Bria with the glasses, with the hindsight of Chassidus. It's not pashut at all, because until Chassidus, the kavanah, the purpose of man, Torah mitzvahs, was in fact the opposite. Our purpose was, coming down here, was to achieve, right, an ascent, Gan Eden, Lam Haba. In other words, this world serves the highest world. Chassidus says that ultimately it's the opposite. That the higher world serves the lowest world. So this is all now, for us, patently obvious, but it's a gewaltige chiddush. And the chiddush really is in the whole Seder Shtalshalus. Because Seder Shtalshalus overtly says that high is high and low is low. Maila is maila and mata is mata. So to identify in the Ein Sof Lifnei Tzimtzum that there already there is the nekuda that the kavana is lapshus, the mata, it's a tremendous chiddush, and that's already Shechina. It's a tremendous chiddush, and it has to be said also that when the Rebbe says a maimer, it's not the pshat that it's no divrei Torah, a chiddush, a kasha, teretz, a question, an answer, an insight, but rather every maimer, the Rebbe is mamshich the inyan, he's megala the inyan, and he's mamshich the inyan. So the Rebbe speaks here about the Ike Shechina in Oisi, it's not said before, nowhere. That Ike Shechina, this darge of Ike Shechina, is already present in the Ein Sof Lifnei Tzimtzum. In other words, the Atzm is the Ge'or. So the Rebbe is megala this, because now is the time, the Deir Hashvi'i, and he's megal and mamshechet in the maimer. Let's continue the maimer. V'hinei his base. Zedi kishchinim betachtoinim oiso. This is the kishchinim was betachtoinim. So tachtoinim is many levels. All the elements are tachtoinim relative to higher worlds and lifnei tzimtzum. So the Rebbe has to make clear. It's understood from the Medrash That we're talking here, Pasha, the lowest, not tachtonim stam, but the lowest level, our physical world. Like explains there in the Medrash, Chet caused one to departure of the Shechina from this world to the Rakia, to the heaven, first heaven. Well, the seventh heaven, the lowest. This is Basi, Legani, Legani. So then the Shechina returns. Where to? Elam Hazeh Gashmi. Now, the primary and most radical departure. There were many chatoim, 7 sinful generations. But the primary one is Chet Yitzadas. He goes on to elaborate. Just like in terms of the consequence of the sin itself, or the severity of the sin. The Chet Yitzadas, the first sin of the forbidden tree of knowledge, is the primary Chet. That's what opened up, made possible all other transgression, the banishment from Gan Eden. So in the same way that the Chet itself was the most severe, and because of this, all of the other Chatoim followed. First Cain and Hevel, and then Enosh, they began to call Huchal B'Shem Hashem. He began to, the Rambam explains then how it all worked, that they made this big mistake, and they began to give honor to the various forces of nature, thinking that's the way you honor Hashem. But of course, it was a terrible error, because the analogy was to a king and ministers, but a minister has free choice, so you thank the minister. But nature is merely like the axe in the hand of the wood chopper. So that was a terrible error then, where Avodah Zarah began. And then came the other Chatoim that the Medrash says. After that was the Deir HaMabul, the flood, and then the Deir of Hamigdal, of the tower, and then came Anshi's Doim, and finally the 7th sinful generation, the Mitzri, in the time of Avraham. But this all followed and was really an extension of the Chet Yitzadas. So in terms of severity, also and consequence of the Chet, what this sin did, not only what it's going to lead to, not only the door that it opened, but what it actually accomplished is far greater than any of the other Chatoim. Because what does the Chet do? The Chet causes the divine presence to depart. What was the main, most radical change, the most dramatic change? The fact that the Shechina, the Ikar Shechina that was here Lamata, and through the Chet Yitzadas, it's no longer accessible here, it departs. That's a much more dramatic and drastic effect than ascending from one Rakia to the other in Eilam Yisruchnim, in the spiritual realms. As can be appreciated. The tremendous chiddush of the Shechina being revealed Lamata, or being present Lamata. And now that, here's the Ikar. Now that the Shechina, the Ikar Shechina left Lamata, it's not manifest in the higher Eilamis either. They all of them, they're all tolui in the Avodah that we do down here. And since the Avodah didn't happen b'shleimus, the Ikar Shechina was not revealed once and for all. But Torah came back again, and we're still working on the process to culminate it in the Deir Hashvi'i. But since till it happens, then it's not that the Ikar Shechina goes back to higher levels. There's no Ikar Shechina revealed anywhere. As the Shechina departs from one level to the other, from the very moment of Chet Yitzadas, Ikar Shechina is no longer accessible. Because only manifest the Chatchila B'tachtoin down here. And again, manifest present. Through Avodah, we would reveal it in Elam Hazeh. So it continues. So the Iker Siluk is where Mashin Istalik Meor is Dafke, Shazenas Adechet Itzadas. Shadizen Istalka Shchina Meor Tarikia, because this caused the Shchina to leave the world to the Rikia, and as explaining based on other sources, that meant that the Iker Shchina is not accessible anywhere. This explains the diak in the words of the Frierdiker Rebbe. In the Medrash lists all the 7 sinful generations. One and the other one, Chet Yetzadas, and then Chet of Kayin, and then Chet of Enosh. But how does he list it in the Maimer? He doesn't put them all in one group. Chet Yetzadas, then Kayin and Enosh. But rather he says Chet Yetzadas, and then he says Kayin ve'Enosh. Then he brings another, but he puts Chet Yetzadas in its own category. Why? Because that was the primary tragedy. That was the primary disappointment, the most drastic change. The fish, the kind of Enish is because all the subsequent Chatoyim, what happens is that the Shechin is moving back, as it were, from one Rekia to the other. So let me just to be clear, what's removed is not only Iker Shechin, but all the dargas of the Shechin. As a result of the Iker Shechin going. Even those dargas of Ishtalshalus, Malchus Datzilis, and so on, or Ak, or I'm sorry, the Kav, which is Shechin Lagabe the Erin Sof, to whatever degree that was present in Ishtalshalus, because it's at the end of the day, it's the Kav is the beginning of Ishtalshalus, it's the line of graded manifestations of Elikus. All these levels of Shechina were no longer, but the Iker tragedies that the Iker Shechina is gone. So in addition to the fact that the fact that it left us, it's for us, it's the biggest tragedy because it left our world. The biggest departure is in the Iker Shechina leaving the Oretz, and again, by extension, inaccessible anywhere in Ishtal Shalos. I hope that's clear. Mamshel Maimer, then he continues in the Maimer. Then there arose 7 tzaddikim and drew the Shechina back down. And Avram, and then Yitzchak, Yaakov, Levi, Kos, Amram, and Moshe. So he says, Avram, Zachav, Hedetz, Shechina, Merkiya, Zayin, Levov. But then, Umekatza, Bezer, Messiah, he doesn't list all of them as the Medrash does, and he goes straight to Adki, Moshe, Shu, Hashvi'i, till Moshe, that he was the 7th. And then he brings in brackets Sugraim from another Medrash. It's not the Medrash Rabbi here. It's Vayikar Rabbi, it's a different Medrash than the Medrash in Shir HaShirim in Pashas Nosai, where it also appears, the Basi Legani. The Frierdiker Rebbe adds in brackets, V'chal Hashvi'i Chavivin, Hayridu Lamata Ba'aretz. So the Rebbe is going to be Medaya kind of here. So why is he Mekatzer? So what he could say, or he could list all of the tzaddikim, because he wants to point the Frierdiker Rebbe to the special yachas between the Rishon and the Shvi, Avram and Moshe. Because the Rebbe is going to say, likewise, our generation, the Shvi. The Iker in Amshocha, the Moshe, the main Amshocha, just like the Iker Siluk. The main departure was from Chet Yetzadas, the first Chet, from Oretz to Rekia. So too the Iker Amshocha is by Moshe, Shari Moshe, Davka, he did the Lemata, but it's Moshe brought the Shechina back down to the world, but in Torah, the Mishkan. So likewise, in the Hamshocha, the Hashem should be in Hasiluk, just like in the Siluk, the main Siluk is leaving the world. So to the drawing of the Shechina back, what's the most significant step And what's the ikka step, the primary step, the most radical one and the critical one? He can yamshach lamata but is dafke. He's bringing the shechina lamata down here. Aside from that's our world, so of course to us it's the ikr. What's happening in the Elam no, but the shechina left us. That's the most important. But aside from that, in Yizak Gamkin ikr inyan hamshach, the main step being mamshech, the chidush of hamshach, that the shechina is descending, the true hamshach descent is not in one spiritual plane from to the other, but from the kiyah to others. And this is effective. This is gewaltige chidush of bringing the shechina not just from one kiyah to the other, but into the world in the Elam Hazeh, in the Gashmis of Elam Hazeh. Nasa de Moshe Dafke. This is done and effected through Moshe. And the Friedrich Rebbe explains the reason for it in the brackets there, and he says, because all seventh are beloved, which now the Rebbe is going to explain what is that Gosh and the Diuk, Kol Hashvin Chavivin. There's two ways this could be said, and there's a difference. All seventh are beloved, or all beloved are seventh. If you say Kol Chavivin Shvin, what are you saying? You're saying he's beloved because of his own Maila. So the Eibishter will be Mesader that because he's beloved, he'll be seventh. But the Chvivus is independent of him being Shvi. It's not what it says. It says Chol Hashvin Chavivin, all seventh are beloved. But the Medrash brings many the dugmois of this. Shmita, Shabbos, the Deir Hashvi, Chanoich, the Riki Hashvi, all kinds of examples, which is called Rikiya. So it's called Arova. Arova is the seventh Rikiya, and other examples. Shabbos, obviously. So the Loshen is Kol Hashvin Chavivin Muchach Mizeh She'ikra Mailahu Zeh Shoshvi. What's his main Maila? That he is the seventh. Zeh Shoshvi, because he's seventh mitzad Zeh Chavivusay. That's why he's Chaviv. That's why he's precious. Hainu Shechavivusay in the mitzad Yinatoli Bepchirosay. Ritzoy Nivavidosay. His being beloved and precious, endeared. It's not because he chose so, his will, or his avodah. He's seventh. He's born. He comes after the six that preceded. And even though it's not his bchira, it's not his rotzen, and not his avodah, he has this special quality of being chaviv. And therefore Torah was given through Moshe because of the Maila of being Shvi. So now he's going to be Masbir. So the Friedrich Rebbe explains, and the Rebbe adds interestingly in the brackets, when did he explain the Maila of the Shvi? When he came to America. Because that's where the Deir Shvi begins, is in America. That seems to be what I was hinting to. Upon him, so what does he must be? That in so the one and Shvin Chavivin, at the end of the day, we're talking about the Shvi. And we're saying that the Shvi, you are more precious than all of the others. However, what's the preciousness of the Shvi? It's bittul. Because he's connected to the Rishon, particularly. Because what makes him Shvi is not from the second, from the third. What makes him Shvi is from the first. So in the mile of the Shvi is Nikemar the Rishon. Shari called in Shvi who Shvi Rishon. You're only seven because it starts with six before you, starting with the number one. So therefore, the mile of the Deir Shvi of Moshe Rabbeinu, and likewise our Deir Shvi is because we express and are connected uniquely to the first day. So Bira Ozma and explained in that Maimed the Friedrich Rebbe and this Maimed of Achidish Hazeh, Tavshin, when he first came to America. So Bira Ozma lost Shel Rishon Shezer Avram Avinu. What's the unique mile of the Rishon Avram Avinu? Mipnei Avidosa, because of his avodah. It's his achievement. And what was the hallmark of Avram's Avinu avodah? Mesiras nefesh. The mistapik bezel dayin. And if the Rebbe is not satisfied with this, with telling us that the yesod and the foundation is Mesiras nefesh, and he adds after l'chur ends in the gear shom l'gufa. It's not so much negir to add the kind of Mesiras nefesh that he's going to say right now. It's not so negir to the subject matter that he's explaining there in what is the mile of the Rishon. But he does. Why? The Rebbe is suggesting because he's telling us it's not just Mesiras nefesh, not enough. It has to be Mesiras nefesh in this way. In which way? He didn't look for it. The Rebbe is saying, I'm not looking for heroes, martyrs. It's not what we're looking for here. It's doing what has to be done. And that's all. As he explains now, explains that Mesiras nefesh Avram Avinu, Mesiras nefesh of Rabbi Akiva. The Mesiras nefesh Rabbi Akiva, was said of gesucht Mesiras nefesh. When the Romans were torturing him in the Yotzel Nafshi Be'echad, so his Talmidim asked him, Rebbe, even now he was saying the Shema and he was smiling, he was besimcha. So he said his whole life he was waiting to be able to Makai in the mitzvah of Bechol Nafshecha, that he take up your very life. And my whole life I was waiting, Masa Yova, Liyodi Vakemeno, when will this opportunity come and I'll be able to fulfill it? So I'm preparing my whole life for this moment. So this is Taka Gewaltig in Mesiras Nefesh, but what? The Mesiras Nefesh is the goal itself. He was looking to serve the Eibishter the highest way. As opposed to what? As opposed to, this is what the Eibishter wants. Gemarno. Needs Mesiras Nefesh, Mesiras Nefesh. It doesn't, not, whatever's required. It's about the Kavanah. The Hashvi'i, the Rebbe is saying, is about the Kavanah Elyoina, which Avram embodied, as opposed to the greatest Avodah and Shleimus and even Mesiras Nefesh and Bittul, but that's about my desire. That's not the Deir Hashvi'i. Shenkim ba'Avram, because we are the Rishon, so we're looking at Avram. Mesiras Nefesh Shleihoy b'derech agav. Mesiras Nefesh was incidental. Avram, Yoda, Avram, Yusheikar Avedahu. What is Aveda? His main Aveda. Commissioner calls, like it says, he built a Mizbech and then Vayikrishom, B'Shem Avayakel Olam, and he called on there in the name of Hashem, of God, Lord of the world. It says in Medrash Al Tikra, Vayikra El Vayakri. Don't read, he called, but Vayakri made others call. The whole famous Medrash, the Eshel that he had, and so on. And he was Mefarasim Yisper Elikus. As Yenazol Eichshrein, that the other person should call out that there's an Eibush in the world. And if it's required, okay, so that too. But that's not the objective in its own right. Just going to tell you, just to mention a little time here. We're all familiar with the famous story, the story of the Mittel Rebbe's Chassid. The Mittel made a takona that to come to Lubavitch, coming and going, I think Bika coming, going back, you have to chaz chassidus wherever you go. Many stories about this. So there was a young man, he was a muksher, he was very talented, and he could be masber chassidus very, very well. So he came to the Mittel Rebbe, and he wanted to be exempt from this avodah because it was meisef in yeshes. So the Rebbe told him, "At Tzibur zal von dir werden, and Anya should become the view of Chassidus aus der Chazan." The Rebbe said this story more than once, but Purim Tov Shechai, the famous Fabrenga. So I don't know, how did you always understand? How I always understood. What's the yeshes that the Chassid has? That he speaks well, and people enjoyed his shir. He got recognition. You know what the Rebbe says there? You can hear it, put him to Shechai. The Yeshus was that he could be Mamala the Rotzen of the Mittel Rebbe. That was this Yeshus. As kon Mamala schaffen, I think kon schaffen Nachas Ruach. So he can create and bring Nachas Ruach to the Mittel Rebbe. As opposed to what? As opposed to the Mittel Rebbe should have Nachas. And for me, if it has to be for me, it's for me. From you, from everyone. It's a made a dikadarge, but that's what the Rebbe is demanding from us. This is the Deir Hashvi'i. Deir Hashvi'i is the Kavanah. So kol kach God l'maylis avidoso v'mesiras nefesh Elohim. So great was the avodah of Avraham, this mesiras nefesh, even greater than Rabbi Kiva, ad hashagam Moshe, mashezacha shenitna teir al yodoi. Why was Moshe zocha the Torah given through him? Who mitam ki hashvi'in chavivin. Shehu shvi l'rishon, because he, Moshe Rabbeinu, was bottled and implemented this avodah, the avodah of the rishon. And that's where we find Makadosh Baruch Hu Amle Moshe B'Wakim Gdolim Avram Al Talmud. The Medrash brings it that Moshe Rabbeinu, Avram said Hineni to the Eibishter, and he said Hineni. What does Hineni mean? He's muchen for Malchus, he's muchen for Kahuna, and Beisish in some certain way he got it. And Moshe Rabbeinu also intended that, and the Eibishter told him B'Wakim Gdolim Al Talmud. The Farshim say that he did get it, but it didn't go down to his children, whatever the pratim. It's not Negeya. Which Negeya is that we see from the Medrash over here that the Eibishter tells Moshe Rabbeinu that your mile is bittul. And the Godel, that's Avraham. V'hinei yafki Godlo chvivis Hashvi'i. So now the Rebbe is going to address, so how is this shaykhs to everybody in the Deir Hashvi'i? Tzaddikim. Good, Moshe Rabbeinu in his generation, and the Rebbe in his generation. The Rebbe is going to insist that this is given to everyone. And again, as I said before, a maimer, anything, any words from Rebbe, but a maimer you can see Pashat Begashmis, how the Rebbe works in this, in the Yegiyah and the Omel Pasha Begashmis, that the Rebbe is mamshir the Inyan, and he makes it a reality. As we're learning the Maimer now, the Rebbe is saying the Maimer, and it's in the Sinas Koyach. As we say these words, we're not just learning to know what did the Maimer say. This is the Rebbe giving us Koyachas. So let's see him. And even though the greatness of the Shvi is, it's not through choice or Avodah. It comes because you're born. So it's shaykh to everyone. It's not something that's limited, that's beyond me. Only such people will be given this gift. Again, in the Shvi Moshe Rabbeinu, it was him. And even the Deir Hashvi'i, he was the seventh tzaddik. But the Deir Hashvi'i, which is the Deir of Chanoich, the Medrash says it was Chanoich, not the whole Deir. Chanoich was Chaviv. Said the Rebbe, no, it's not Shechtich, only Yechidei Zgula, people of distinction, Kiyim, Adar Shemuvah Beton Advelio. Like it says in Medrash, Muva Bedach and Brodan Chsidish, Kol Yisrael, every Yinafila, Evafilu, Shivcha, even a seventh Shivcha means a very simple Jew. Yechem Lagil Hashros Ruach HaKodesh. So well to give it. Can have Ruach HaKodesh. If you're plugged in and there's the bittul, then everything is given to you. Like we're learning now in this year, the Perikut Aleph, the Bizbez Oitzeres, that the deepest Oitzeres, which were never revealed, are squandered and given to who? Even the Pasha, the foot soldier. Dafka, the Pasha, the foot soldier. And every Yid is obligated to say it's a razal. Moshe, when will like my actions, not talking about our feelings, but our bottom line behavior, when will it be like the behavior, the actions of Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov? So we can reach the greatest heights. But we should never fool ourselves. And the great heights that we can achieve, told Moshe Rabbeinu, this is all coming to you from Avron. Vechom meiles Hashvi'i hu shu Hashvi'i l'rishon. The whole mile of our generation is that we're the seventh to the first. That each one of us can carry out the shlichus that the first one began. Not only, it's not enough that you call out, but he causes another yid to call out. This is the chvivis of the seventh generation, that we are the ones entrusted with the mission and empowered to be mamshich the shechina, but not just to make the world a little bit of a holy place, but the ikir shechina, which means the kavanah pnimius, as he says, Atzma Ein Sof, and where we mamshich it, shemamshich b'tachteinim, down here in the Mazar Gashmi. I will conclude this chelik of the Maimon. The Maimon was divided into different chalakim by the Fabrengen them. The gunim in between. The spoke in between. So he concludes, this is the mandate from each one of us. Deir Hashvi'i. Chol Hashvi'i chavivi, and that all seventh of beloved in Meyeshazah, Shanachnu b'Deir Hashvi'i. Listen to these words. This that we're the seventh generation. It's not our choice. And in some matters, it could be even against our will. We'd rather not be here. Rather lived in an earlier generation. Could be also Maramis, I don't know. Certainly, Kefir Tzinenu after Gimel Tammuz. So, in Lefir Tzinenu. But nonetheless, Yatid B'chayehi, the Rebbe is giving. This is the fact. They have this chvivus, we have these koiches. We are on the heels of Mashiach, at the end of the heels. Mamish, the last steps. To complete the drawing down of the Shechina. Again, the Rebbe stresses not just the Shechina, but the Ike Shechina, but Achtoinim, Davkin Achtoinim. We'll conclude and continue Be'ez Hashem tomorrow. Just want to point out an interesting thing about the way this Maimer is written. It's obvious, especially if you contrast this to the Maimorim, the other Mugadik Maimorim of the later years, Al Pi Hayro of the Rebbe, that when it's written, it's restructured and it's a whole different, sometimes a different Seder in Yonim, and certainly laid out differently than the way it's said. This Maimer is more or less, Pasha. There's a few things that are missing a little bit, but more or less as the Rebbe says, you can hear from the tape. And that's why it repeats, because the Rebbe repeated it, not just Shechina, but Ike Shechina. You get a sense here of the Hadgosha, the emphasis, the koiches, the gewaldige, Deir Hashvi'i, the whole new shlichus, the template and the koiches that are given. The Rebbe is working and giving to each one of us in this Maimer. If I may tell a little story, maybe a private story, I heard this from my friend Rabbi Yossi Parish, who was a nephew of Rabbi Yoel Zayin. So he tells me that he once asked Rabbi Yoel a question on the Maimer, Askola, a lot of Askola here in this Maimer, in the first days, and then later in that was being must be why the Al Pisechel, Kavayochel, why we have to say the Kavon is Dafkin the Tachten. and not in Ilmas Elyonim. Albeit in Tanya. Anyway, whatever, it's very askoladik, as we see. I just want to tell you that so Yossi is asking Rabbi a question to Rabbi. He said, he never learned this maimer the way of a scholar. It's gelernt mit Herz. Pnimius Alev. We have to understand it. And each one of us according to the best of our ability. But the is here to get it bepnimius, and to be invigorated by its bracha, by its mission, by its koiches, and finish the mission and bring the Shechina, the Ike Shechina Lamata Ba'aretz. Okay, friends, Be'ezer Hashem. If there's any questions, you can write it. We'll try and answer to the best of our ability, or comments. Okay, Be'ezer Hashem. Or you can send me an email. If it's a more complex question, I can do some research. And the Be'ezer Hashem will meet again tomorrow night. Be'ezer Hashem at 8:30.